So let's talk about something real for a sec. What if you could actually turn all that hard work your team is putting in into growth you can measure, growth you can actually defend? Well, we're about to break down a system that's designed to do exactly that. And look, this isn't about working harder, it's about building a machine that learns and just gets better and better on its own.
All right, let's kick things off with a question that I bet has crossed your mind. I mean, you see it, right? The constant activity, the endless campaigns, the back-to-back meetings, the reports piling up. But are you actually getting better? Is that needle, is it really moving? If you've ever felt like you're just treading water, running in place, then you've just hit on the exact problem we're going to tackle today.
And this right here, this perfectly nails the central conflict, doesn't it? On one side, you've got motion, all that busy work that feels productive. But then, on the other side, you have learning. And what's that? Well, it's making decisions you can actually stand behind with data. It's gaining real velocity. It's compounding what you know works. That is where the real growth is hiding. And for so many teams, there's just this massive gap between the two.
Okay, so your first instinct might be, well, the problem is we just don't have the budget. But take a look at this number. Marketing budgets are on track to hit almost 9.5% of company revenue. So, the money? It's there. And that's our first big clue, that the real problem? It's hiding somewhere else entirely.
And here's where it gets kind of weird. Here's the paradox. Even with those growing budgets, a huge majority of CMOs, we're talking 59% of them, are saying they still don't have enough money. So how can both of those things be true at the same time? It really points to one thing. The problem isn't the size of the budget, it's how that budget is actually being put to work.
Okay, so let's just call it what it is. This is not a funding problem. It is a decision quality problem, plain and simple. Teams are just drowning in motion, but they're not making these smart, evidence-based calls that lead to real learning and, actual progress.
And this quote, man, this just gets right to the heart of it. Think about it. In the market today, the only durable advantage you have left is your learning velocity. How fast can you learn? It's not about who has the biggest war chest anymore. It's about who can come up with a good idea, test it cleanly, and make a smart call, and then do it all over again next week.
And this need for a whole new way of operating, it's not just some nice-to-have idea. It is literally being forced on us by these huge shifts happening out in the market. So let's dive into the three big ones that are completely changing the rules of the game.
All right, let's break these down. First up, visibility is just fragmenting like crazy. Thanks to AI search, just getting the click isn't the win anymore. The new goal? You have to be so good that the AI quotes you directly in its answer. Second, privacy. Wow, the rules are always in flux. You just can't count on third-party cookies anymore, period. Which means building your own first-party data isn't optional, it's essential. And third, let's be real, growth is flat for a lot of companies, and that's putting pressure on everyone. The focus has to change from spend more to get more from what we already have.
And speaking of getting more from what you have, check this out. This stat is just mind-blowing. Think about it. For every $92 a company spends on acquisition, just getting people to the door, only a single dollar goes to conversion optimization. Just $1 to make that door easier to walk through. The leverage here is it's insane. If you just shift a little focus to the path you already own, the upside is massive. So the big question is, how do we fix this whole mess? Well, it starts by reframing what growth even is. It's not about a bunch of random ad hoc campaigns. It's about building a disciplined system, a system that runs on a steady, weekly beat of learning.
Okay, now, for this system to actually hold up, there are 4 rules, and they are absolutely non-negotiable. You can't break them. First, a weekly growth meeting, every single week. Second, a super disciplined way to prioritize your experiments. No more what sounds cool today. Third, and listen, this one is maybe the most important, you decide what a win looks like for every single test before you hit launch. And fourth, if the results are a mess or inconclusive, you just stick with the control, no guessing. These rules, they're the glue that holds the whole thing together. Now, let's talk about the absolute centerpiece of this whole thing, that weekly growth meeting. I want to be clear, this is not just another meeting to clog up your calendar. It's a non-negotiable 60-minute pulse. It is the literal heartbeat of the sprint, and it's what keeps the entire system honest and pushing forward.
And the agenda for this meeting? It is ruthlessly efficient. No fluff. 10 minutes on metrics and pipeline. 15 on last week's experiments and what you decided. 15 on the lessons and patterns you're seeing. 15 on what's coming up next week. And then 5 absolutely critical minutes for blockers. Anything getting in the way? We solve it now.
The whole thing is designed to force decisions and keep that momentum going.
Okay, so you've got that weekly heartbeat down. Now let's zoom out and look at the whole 90-day playbook. We're talking about a 12-week sprint. The goal? Ship at least 12 experiments. What this does is it creates this incredible compounding learning loop where every single lesson builds on the one before it.
And this sprint, it's broken down into 3 really logical phases. The first 4 weeks, it's all about fix the leaks. You got to solidify your foundation before you try to add more volume, right? Then, weeks 5 to 8, you create proof. This is where you build those trust assets that actually work in this new AI-first world. And finally, the last 4 weeks, scale winners. You just systematically amplify your most successful experiments.
Let's make this real. Here's a classic example from phase 1, an offer clarity test. And just look at the structure. It's so clean. You've got a clear owner, 1 primary metric, not 5, and that pre-committed decision rule. We know exactly what winning looks like before we even start. There's just no room for debate or ambiguity after the fact.
All right, now let's jump into phase 2. A great experiment here is a comparison page test. I mean, let's face it, your buyers are already doing this research anyway, right? They're looking you up against your competitors. So by creating the definitive comparison page, you get to control the narrative. And again, look at that beautiful, disciplined structure, a clear owner, a single metric, and that all-important decision rule.
And this is where the magic really happens. This is where the power of the system shines. In phase 3, you run a repeat winner iteration. All you're doing is taking your most successful experiment from the whole sprint, and you ask one simple question: how can we get even more out of this? This is what compounding actually looks like in practice. You're turning one single win into a whole family of wins.
So, after all that, what's the big payoff? What do you get at the end of 90 days? Well, yeah, you'll have some lifted metrics, but you've built something so much more valuable than that. You've built a durable, repeatable learning machine. So think about it. By day 90, here's what you've got. You have a system that can reliably ship 12+ experiments every single quarter. You have a stronger first-party data backbone, so you're not so reliant on that shaky third-party tracking. You've built a proof system that actually converts buyers in this new answer-first world. And maybe best of all, you're getting way more bang for your buck without even adding to your spend.
And you know what else? You'll finally be able to talk about your success with total clarity. Forget those 50-page reports that nobody reads. We're talking about a single slide for the execs. Just 5 metrics. How's your North Star trending? What's your experiment tempo? What's your win rate? How many compounding assets did you ship? And how's the pipeline looking? This is the kind of stuff leaders trust because it's measurable, it's easy to explain, and it's tied directly to the decisions you're making.
When you boil it all down, this whole thing is about a fundamental shift in how you think. We've got to stop making plans. You know the ones, those pretty documents that feel great to make and then just die a quiet death in a shared drive. Instead, we need to build systems. Systems have a weekly tempo. They have pre-committed rules. They have real accountability. And critically, they have institutional memory. They don't forget past lessons.
So if there's one thing you take away from all this, let it be this: stop making plans, start building systems. Because in a world where learning faster is the only true advantage left, the team with the best system will beat the team with the biggest budget every single time. So the only question left for you is, what's your system for learning?